What's up, Wildcatters? Welcome back to another episode of the Oil and Gas Startups Podcast. In typical, I guess in the last 3 months, dude, we've been doing these things solo. We've been trading this thing off. You can't catch us in a room together.
Yeah.
But we're here with our boy, Nick Williams from Viking Power Technologies. Nick, what's up, man?
What's happening?
Dude, we're just grinding.
Blowing and going like everybody else,
blowing
right?
and going, you know?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. How's, what do you guys do?
So, Viking Power Technologies is part of the Prime Downhole Manufacturing family. Prime Downhole Manufacturing is a precision machine shop as well as a repair facility. Here, April of 2021, last year, the Viking brand was added to the portfolio, and we're a power section manufacturer. So we manufacture rotors and stators to go on the top end of a mud motor to help turn the bit and drill these wells. So
I got so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. So you guys are based here in Houston?
We're based here in Houston. We've got 3 facilities. We've got one off of Spring Stubner 99, which is our precision machine shop. We've got one off of Ritchie and 45, which is our repair and bearings manufacturing facility. And then the newest facility is Viking, which is over by which is off of JFK in the Beltway.
Okay. So you guys are not actually manufacturing mud motors themselves. You're manufacturing a lot of the components that go in the mud motors.
So the answer to that is yes and no. So we do full suite. You know, we work with customers that have their own mud motor design and they want to come to us and, hey, we need the entire thing manufactured. Yes, we're manufacturing. We're not building them and putting them out in the field for use, but we're manufacturing the components. The idea of Prime as a whole, as a family, is to be the manufacturer of the BHA. From the bit box all the way through your MWD string, we can manufacture the components that go in that string to be able to drill wells.
So are you manufacturing these directly for customers, or are you manufacturing these for other brands that are then turn around and selling these?
No, I guess it could be a combination of. We work with some customers that do sell some stuff overseas and things like that, but mostly we're working directly with your directional companies, your MWD companies, motor rental companies, and things like that, and we're manufacturing directly for them.
Okay. Walk me through a little bit so we have a little bit more context about this Prime family. What else is in that family?
So right now it's just those two things. Again, we want to manufacture the BHA. Adding the power sections to this allowed us to say that from the bit box to the top sub. The only thing, and we can even manufacture components for bits. Obviously, that's a very precise and niche market for a lot of these companies that do the bit work. They do it on their own. But what it allows us to do is, again, we can go component by component in a motor from the lower end all the way to. So we compete in a couple different arenas. Our machine shop and our precision machine shop and our repair shop compete with other machine shops. There's a lot of them out there. There's small ones,
like
that
generic machine shops. We talking about oil field machine shops specifically.
So currently, right now, I would say 95% of what we do is oil field.
Yeah.
As we look at growing this thing and making it bigger, that is one of the things that I'll be tasked with on a business development and sales side is how do we branch out? How do we diversify a little bit? So, everybody knows that there's ups and downs. So how do we weather the storm, right? But our main focus is oil and gas. So we will compete with machine shops that there are guys that have 2 or 3 machines in their garage and they can spit out components. We've got major manufacturers that we compete with on the machine shop side. Adding the component of Viking is what sets us apart, not only on the power section side itself, but on the machine side. There's not a machine shop that owns a power section company. There's not a power section company that has their own machine shop.
You're the only ones doing it.
We're the only ones doing it that way, where it's all in-house. You literally send your tool to us. The only things that we're not doing from a power section standpoint are coating our rotors, and that's chrome and EPA and all that stuff that we don't want to get involved in, and removing the rubber from the stators. So everything else, if you need a full motor built, if you need every component for a motor, we can do it. If you need every component for a BHA, you need Monel collars, drill, whatever it may be, stabilizers, all of that stuff, we can do that at Prime.
Dude, I don't know shit about mud motors. I don't even know where to begin with all this. So the Viking technology, you said this is kind of groundbreaking for Prime. Was this recently acquired by Prime?
It was, yeah. So
you said it was a newer technology.
April of last year, we were approached by an existing business that wanted to get out of the power section business. And so we purchased the assets of this company. And basically we were, the 2 biggest things that keep you out of getting into the power section business are time and capital. It takes a lot of time to manufacture the machines that we use on a day-to-day basis to inject rubber, to remove rubber, to
so even making the machines to make the things.
Exactly. You're looking at we use the Weingartner rotor milling machines, and those are at least a 16-month lead time. And the capital up there, those range in the millions of dollars, $1 to $5 million, depending on what size you get. So in order to get started in the business, you need a lot of upfront capital and you need time. Trying to time things in the oil and gas industry is not the easiest thing in the world. So again, we were approached, and to take one step back, the president of our company, Life Syverson, has been involved in 2 separate power section companies. He's our best friend and our worst enemy because he created my 2 biggest competitors, or 2 of our 3 biggest competitors. And so he's done this before.
He's just rinsing and repeating.
He's done this before. He's been very successful, and timing is everything. So Life has been very, very good at the timing piece of it and building the right team. And that's what we're doing here at Viking as well. So this company approached us and said, "Hey, were you interested in getting into this market?" And absolutely, at the right price. And price was right, and we didn't have any time to wait. So we made the purchase in the middle of April of last year, and started day one, started producing power sections. We tweaked the elastomer formulation to make it our own. That's kind of what's the proprietary part of a power section company. The process, we do some things a little bit different than everybody, but it's pretty much the same across the board from a process standpoint. But the elastomer and the people.
What is that?
So the elastomer is to look at a power section and whole, you have a rotor and a stator. Okay. The stator
similar to a stator that you would find on a motorcycle. Or, I mean, we're talking about power.
We're talking about power.
That's what I'm comparing it to.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're talking about fluid driven power. So what you're looking at with a stator is essentially it's a can, as we call it, but it's a metal tube. And then what we do is we inject an elastomer in there, rubber into it. Okay. That elastomer has lobes. Okay. So there's peaks and valleys is the easiest way to look at it, right? So like
a camshaft.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. So if you're looking at, let's just take the old school bread and butter, 6 3/4 7850. If you were drilling a well in 2010, you were using a 6 3/4 7850. There wasn't a lot of variation in well design. There wasn't a lot of variation in power sections that you could have. Okay. So 6 3/4 7850. What does that mean? 6 3/4 is the OD of the tube. Okay. The 7/8 is the lobes of the power section. So on the rotor, there are 7 peaks. And in the stator, there are 8 valleys. Okay. So what happens is fluid is pumped down the drill string. And as the fluid is pumped down the drill string, it forces that rotor to turn within that stator by path of least resistance, right? It's going to find the easiest way. As it rotates, as it pushes the fluid down through that's what turns the transmission, that in turn turns the bit. So we're going from a concentric motion from an eccentric motion to a concentric motion to turn the bit to be able to drill the well.
Are most fluid driven?
Fluid or air are the 2 ways that we're doing it. So up in the Northeast, where they're seeing a lot of losses while they're drilling, they'll do an air mist combination. But yes, it's and this goes back to a French guy by the name of Rene Moineau, and it was the positive displacement mud motor, and it was his kind of brainchild, and it has turned into. So when I say, if in 2010 you were drilling a well, it was a 6 3/4 7850. Today, hundreds of different options, of different flavors, of just a little bit more torque, just a little bit more speed, just trying to tweak it to again, we're in the oil and gas industry. I think we're the only people in the business that get significantly better at what we do every single day, get paid less for it, and continue to improve, right? So
that's just the nature of the business.
Nature of the business.
So y'all secret sauce is this rubber that you're inserting into that?
Correct. Yeah. So
and what does that affect?
So what happens is downhole, obviously you've got different types of fluids, different types of environments, different types of heat. The elastomer is affected by all of those things: the swell characteristics, the strength of the rubber, the adhesion of the rubber to the stator. All of those things are.
This is what we're talking about right here.
That's exactly what we're talking about right there. So you're looking at a cross section. Okay. So the blue here is the stator, and then we've just cut out. Our good friends at Midnight Marketing do a great job for us. Have cut out a section of the stator, and you can see the rubber profile inside. So the elastomer, again, the strength of the elastomer, the elasticity, the elongation, all different things go into it that make our elastomer slightly different from our competitors.
Okay.
And so what we're looking for is just like anything else, bigger, faster, stronger. Who can last the longest? Who can produce the most torque? Who can produce the most horsepower? Because there are a lot of industry models that are like. So my customer produces the same one that I do. So the only difference can be manufacturing time, customer service, and the elastomer. Those are the three differentiating factors in our business right now. And we're bringing a couple different things to the game that are trying to change that. But they're all essentially it's people and product. So
are you guys actually manufacturing the motors themselves?
So we are, again, just the components of all the motors.
Yeah. Okay.
So we can manufacture all those in our Prime facility, and then within our Viking facility, we are manufacturing the stator and the rotor. And so the precision milling machine that we create that we make the rotors with is an awesome process. Man, if you're ever up by the airport, let me know. It's a cool process to watch. But that's we use Weingartner. There's a couple different options out there. The Weingartner is a brand that we use. That is what you manufacture your rotors with. And then there's a couple different ways that you can inject, but our injection, we have two separate injection lines that we're injecting. Currently our one elastomer offering. What we're coming out with next is we're chasing, the hot hole. So we will very, very soon have a new hot hole elastomer out, which will give us another option. So
are these reusable?
They are. So
are you burning through them?
So what happens is depending on the drilling environment, and it's a combination. Each motor company, each directional company has their own set of criteria that they go by. It is pretty well industry standard that if a stator is run in oil-based mud, it gets relined. Okay, so our business is new manufacturing and relines. Okay, and in the reline process, we take all the rubber that we put out or that we put in the stator, remove it all. Okay, bring it back, make sure everything's good to go on the stator. We check for several different things, including straightness and thread profile and things like that. And then we re-inject that elastomer in it. So they are the cans themselves are reusable. And in certain applications, the elastomer is reusable. Water-based environments, certain less harsh, I guess. So what happens is they'll come back into a motor shop and the guys will tear the motor apart, including the rotor and stator. They'll pull the rotor out. They'll look at the rubber. They can oftentimes bore scope it. They'll check for the hardness of the rubber. They'll check for swell. So they'll measure they'll measure the elastomer and see how much change there was. And then you got to determine, was that because of chemical change? Was that because of heat swell? All those different things. And then the motor company themselves makes the decision whether or not they want to get it relined or if they're going to try to rerun it again. So it's a good thing and a bad thing to have a badass rubber, for lack of a better term, because we've got a lot of customers saying, hey man, hey, you haven't seen a reline for a lot. Well, I'm running on water-based mud and I've got 6 runs on it and I'm just going to keep running it. So, from a business standpoint, I like to see the relines come in and the oil-based mud and how the kind of industry switch has gone to that has helped the business out because the frequency of relines is greater. But when you have good products, sometimes you don't see it back very often because they just keep rerunning it.
So who are y'all's customers? Is it the mud companies or is it the drillers?
Directional companies and mud motor companies. So, the totals, the altitudes, the discoveries, cathedrals, all of those, all of the directional drilling companies that are out there working directly for the operator. We have a lot of conversations directly with operators, but our customers are the directional companies that are going to drill for them. Our conversations with operators are usually just informative, right? Hey, what are we doing at Viking? You guys are new to the table. What makes you different? What are we doing in the hot hole game? How does, a lot of times it's informative too, right? Sitting here just like this with you and I, there's a lot of drilling engineers that, they might not raise their hand in front of a lot of people, but probably never seen the inside of a power section. Don't know how a mud motor works itself, and the 3 different parts of the mud motor and how that all works together. So a lot of it is just sitting down and having a discussion like this about, well, I know what speed I want because I know I'm running this bit and I know I'm in this formation and I know all those combinations, but let's take the guts apart and look at it and see how it actually works.
Yeah. I'm interested about the history of Viking, and maybe even going a little back. You were talking about your buddy that works with you is your best friend and your biggest competitor, or he helps stand up a couple of the biggest competitors. Give me a little backstory there.
Yeah. So again, Leif Syverson is our president. He was at Long oil field career, 30, 40 years. He's just unbelievable guy to work for. So he was at, through a series of acquisitions and things, he ended up at the helm of Diner Drill. And Diner Drill is a direct competitor of ours now. And through another acquisition, he was able to sell his piece of that and then get out on his own and do it again. At that time, he decided
no non-competes or anything. This is out there.
Yeah, just out there,
All
just
right,
rolling. Yeah. So the next one he got involved with was he started up Basin Tech. He and a group of guys started up Basin Tech, and I can't remember the exact number of years. 4 or 5 years later, turned around and sold that, and that is now today Abaco, which is another one of our competitors. And the beauty of what he's done is everybody's like, oh, he's just in it to flip. He has helped build sustainable, long-lasting companies that continue to thrive even after his part of it's done. And being a part of this one now, I can see why. It's because of the type of people he brings in, the team, and the focus he has on the people. The product is obviously important, right? And that, but the team environment, the family environment that he creates has been just kind of eye-opening for me to see. From
what's y'all's headcount currently?
We are at so Viking itself. We when we acquired the assets, we also inherited 8 people.
Okay,
we're now over 50 people, and just over a year.
Yeah.
Company wide, we're with Prime, we're in the 100 to 150 range.
Okay.
So,
and how long was this technology around before it was acquired by Prime? Or was a company around, I guess you should say.
So Roper's been around. Roper is the company that we acquired, and Roper had been around.
And the Roper was rebranded to Viking.
Yeah. Roper had been around, one of the earliest power section companies, to be honest with you. And Roper's a multi-billion-dollar company, and the power sections were just a part of what they did, and decided that's not the way they wanted to go, and so they've decided to get out of it. And good on us. We got lucky, and our timing was right. So.
I feel like we need to do like there's so much of this that I just absolutely don't understand. This is totally foreign to me. Yeah. We should definitely come out and do break all this down and create some short.
Man, I think it would be unbelievable if we could do, I see all your guys' learning, your videos that you guys are doing. It's awesome. Bridging a gap in the oil and gas industry. Look, I've got 2 education degrees. I have nothing to do with the oil and gas industry. I grew up in Indiana. I coached football for a couple of years, and then decided, hey, I want to coach my own kids one day. So I decided to get out, and the guy that I was coaching with said, hey, go down Louisiana. There's a job in the oil field for you. I was, whatever. I didn't know anything. And the lady that hired me said, she goes, son, you got a master's degree. Do you know what you're doing? I said, I figured I could either go back to school and pay somebody to learn something new, or you could pay me and I could learn something I don't know anything about. She goes, oh. And so I've been stuck ever since.
Yeah.
And but the amount of learning and all that stuff. So I'm a huge proponent of learning and teaching, and So I think it would be awesome. Our COO, Tippy Touchette, is 30 years in the machining industry, so he could walk you, from a learning curve on how machining works, how it's evolved, how manual machinists used to be the only thing we have. Now we've got CNC machinists, and a manual machinist probably looks at a CNC machinist and says, that's not a real machinist. He's just a button put, all these different things.
Could you imagine having to manually machine something? Super complex.
I'm telling you, when I first got in the motor side with Pathfinder Energy, back in 2012, 2008, we had guys that were running manual lathes that saved us more money because of just a little chase and face here, rather than, now you're blowing and going and everybody's like, I'll just cut a new connection. Well, it's not really the most economical thing to do, right? So these guys, they're artists, they're true artists. And, it's something that it's a lost art that not a lot of people do anymore. So, but yeah, to go out and then, see the machine side of it, see the power section side of it, understand how it all goes together, how the power section turns the transmission, which, then interacts with the lower end and the bit. We'd love to be a part of any of that and all of that.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
Are you guys with this whole steel shortage, are you guys affected by that?
So that is probably the one thing from a timing aspect that we didn't hit right? So from a ramp up, from more rigs, from more activity, rather be lucky than good, right? Couldn't have wrote a better story as far as our timing from that standpoint. But, we have some crafty competitors, right? And a lot of them, saw what was coming and kind of gobbled up some of but we have some innovative ways that we're continuing to press the limit on what operators are looking for as far as a motor goes by repurposing things that are sitting around that other people aren't using. We have a technology called Duratorque technology where we can take a conventional stator and turn it into an even wall. And now your wheels are really going to start spinning. So in a conventional stator, there's various thicknesses of the elastomer, right? Because it's a straight tube. And you stick you inject it with the elastomer, and you've got on the peaks it's thicker, on the valleys it's thinner. On our Duratorque technology or our even wall technology, the profile of the power section is milled inside of the stator. So now I just have an even layer of rubber on throughout.
What's the point of that?
So it gives you a couple of things. It gives you you can drill with a higher differential pressure. Basically the stats on a spec sheet increase anywhere from 20 to 30%. Okay. And our technology is such that we're not milling it out of a stator. We've got a technology that we can take and again, repurpose a standard stator, make it an even wall. So what has happened in the power section game is bigger, right? This one has more torque, so I want to use it. This one is, has a higher flow rate, so I want to use it. So what's happened is all of these power sections that were the latest and greatest, or the flavor of the day, as we like to call them, or they no longer exist. Yeah. They just sit there and collect dust. So what we're trying to do is, okay, we might not have an abundant supply of 17.4 for rotors or this amazing supply of steel and don't get me wrong, we're getting it done and we're making it work. But at the same time, we're saying, hey, those power sections that you've got sitting over there, they're still a viable option. Watch what we can do with it. Let's increase it by 30%. Now this one that everybody thinks is the latest and greatest, you've got 60 of them sitting in your yard. So rather than producing, making a purchase of both rotors and stators, I can give you a new Duratorque stator. You can use it with your conventional rotor, and now I've got a 30% more powerful power section.
That's smart.
Yeah,
especially right now. And I imagine people just have so much equipment, like just old equipment laying around.
So much. So one of the ways that you get more power out of a power section is make it longer. Okay. So the old school tried and true 8-inch 7840. That was the standard bearer on land.
How long are these things?
So an 8-inch 7840 is anywhere from 195 inches to 200 inches long. Okay.
That's
so just 17 feet.
17 feet.
17 feet. All right. The new standard is 300 inches. That's what everybody's running. So what we've done is we've taken the 7840, we've extended it out.
So by going longer, you're getting more power.
We're getting more power. So now
is there a point of diminishing return where it's so long it's absolutely ridiculous?
Depends on what part of the well you're in. If I'm drilling the curve and my 3-point geometry gets thrown off because I've got a 400-inch stator, yes, there's a problem with that. But in an operator's eyes, if it says more power, there's no diminishing return. We're gonna figure it out. So what I didn't get to earlier was you've got the lobes and then you have the stages. Okay, so 7840 means from one end to the other, from the bottom to the top of that rotor, there are 4 wraps of one what I would call peak. So from it starts here and it wraps around 4 times. So now that 7840 is extended out to a 7859. Okay. The profile of a 7840 is the same as the profile of a 7859. It's just shorter. At prime, we have a way of lining these things up, cutting, stub welding, and now I've taken 2 7840s and made one 7859. So again, the 7840 that's sitting there doing nothing because everybody wants a 7859. We can do this for cheaper than we can, then you can produce a new one. So a lot of what we're trying to do is take what we've got, make it better, but make it all, but also use what we have, right? So
I love that. I love just repurposing old shit. Yeah, I don't know if it was just how I was raised, like just growing up kind of poor, and like you learn to take care of stuff. That's and right. Like repurpose stuff and refurbish stuff.
Yeah.
And then being a car guy on top of it. I got this old BMW sitting in the garage, and I'm like, my wife's like, why can't you get rid of it? And I'm like, because if I do this, this, and this, I've got a really awesome car.
Yep.
You know, and it's not far off.
That's right.
You know, you see the potential in things.
That's
And so
right.
it's really cool that you guys are able to repurpose a lot of this older stuff.
For sure.
What else do you want to teach me?
Man, look, again, what we talked about before is there's a lot of similarities in our competitors and what we do. And it's very similar, you know, the directional companies, what do they offer that's different? All these different things. How are we going to do things different? And I think it starts again with Life and Tippy as our you know, president and COO, the culture that they've set and that they continue to set and that we continue to build. We want to be a company, you know. We started, you know, again, another shameless plug for the guys at Midnight. We started working with them. I actually met Tim in a previous life, in a previous job. And the first thing they asked when we started talking about marketing, I brought him up, and we've done these kind of, I don't know, we call them our Gatorade videos of employees, and taking a video of an employee and kind of followed him on a day-to-day basis and make these highlight videos of what our guys are doing. We want people to say, not only do I want to use Vikings products, but those people seem happy. Those people, that seems like an awesome place to work. I want to go work with them. I want to be a part of that team.
So what's different? I mean, how long have you been in the oil field now?
I've been in the oil field since 2008. So whatever that math is.
It's a long ass time.
Yep.
But, so probably close to what, 15-ish years?
15-ish
years. What is different about Viking/Prime versus, I mean, I looked at your LinkedIn, you probably worked at least 4 other places in those 15 years, right? What are some of the biggest things there?
For me personally, is the ability to affect change. I'm in a position now where, you know, not saying if I say it goes, but you know, I've got the ear of the 2 guys that can make things happen. Right?
Is that more so the position, or is that more so it's a culture of, I don't know, more like a collaborative culture where it's more bottom up than top down?
Yeah, it's very much. I think it's a combination of the 2. Yeah. I think it's past work history and the things that I've done in my career and kind of how I've gotten to where I've got, but more importantly, it's, you know, our leadership understanding that this is going to take everybody, and it's not just, nope, this is my way or the highway. And that's probably the best thing that I've seen with Life and Tippy. They've both built companies and sold companies, but they're also sitting there they're not sitting there saying, nope, this is how we're going to do it. This is how this is what it's going to be. They're not like that. They want everybody's opinion. They know things are ever changing. They know things are evolving. The social media stuff that we're doing, they would, we would have said, no way, we don't need that stuff. We didn't need it before, but it's becoming important, right?
Yeah. Unpack that with me, because I just had a conversation yesterday with one of the big guys, right? On the marketing side, we were talking about the challenges that they were facing internally. Of like, they're one of the biggest names out there. Everybody knows them. However, it's so much bureaucracy internally, and it's exactly like what you were talking about. No, we're just not going to put our neck out there. We're not going to do a whole lot on social media. Like, everybody already knows us. Why do we necessarily need to do this? Yeah. However, like, dude, content is like the highest form of leverage these days. Yeah. And that applies to oilfield services. I know it seems like you're excluded. We're in the commodity business. I mean, it applies to the entire industry, but I'm curious as to, like, I don't know if you were there in that journey from the beginning of, like, kind of going out, like you said, you guys working with Midnight and kind of going out there and doing more just like content and stuff. But I'm curious as to, like, what's y'all's why, and especially with this, I'm guessing Tippy's probably older, right?
Yeah, a few years older.
Yeah, a few years older than us, right? So I'm just kind of curious as to, like, that mindset, because we're still a long ways off from where we need to be as an industry in terms of, like, not just like promoting promoting products and business development and things like that, but it's so important for raising the world's energy IQ. Yeah. And this is not something that we can do alone, or anybody else who's creating content can do alone. It's really kind of up to, like, all of us. And so, like, what I love is, you were talking about kind of going out into the field and doing, like, a day in the life of what certain people are doing. Do we need more of that? Yeah. We need every company to be doing that. Yeah.
No, and it's funny that you say that the big card, to go back one question ago and answer what's the biggest when you say how can you affect change. There's not a lot of the bureaucracy, right? And it's that they allow us to make it ours, right? And Life Leaf Syverson, Viking was that was his thing, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like, do with it what you need to, you know? And I told him about social media stuff that I wanted to do. He's like, if you think that's what it's going to be, that's what it's going to be, then let's roll with it. Right. So it's been, it has been a journey, and I try to get, as many people's perspective as I can. 'Cause there's a lot of times where I'm kind of like, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, I've got kids, whatever. It's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. And, like a lot of the people on the Midnight team and my team in particular will say, yeah, but we need to, we need to do this. You need to push the envelope a little bit. And, I think even just from an educational standpoint, what can be gained from social media and what, it's hard. There's been throughout the 16 months or whatever we've been open, people have called and said, hey, I didn't even know there was another power section company, but I saw you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, then every dollar we've spent so far is worth it because we've just made a new contact who's a new customer, and now we roll it out. So I mean, is sometimes you don't see it's micro dirty jobs, right? One of the things that he said when he saw when he did his dirty jobs was the level of happiness of the people doing the dirty jobs was far superior, far higher than people in a day-to-day environment, because 90% of the dirty jobs, there was instant gratification.
Yeah.
Yep. If you're scooping shit, you can see this, whatever. If you're picking up trash, you can see that instant gratification. With social media, you don't see the instant gratification. Yeah.
That's the hardest. That is the hardest thing about it.
It's right. So you get the likes, right? And we get addicted to the likes, and
get
it's
that
like
dopamine hit.
Gosh,
man, we need these likes.
It is, right? It's a drug, right? But that's probably the biggest hurdle to jump is, well, if you're spending your time for 2 or 3 hours a day doing social media stuff, you could have seen 1 or 2 customers. Very well. But if in these 2 or 3 hours a day, I reach 1,800 people with the post that we just put together.
And if it's 1,800 targeted people who one of those could potentially become a client.
Right.
Now you have to look at what is your customer acquisition cost there was 3 hours of your time.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different way of casting a super wide net, kind of creating top of funnel. Still comes in. You still have to build relationships in this industry. It's still very much B2C.
Yep.
Everybody sees this as like, oh, just businesses doing business, but no, you're still doing business with people you love, that you like to hang out with.
That's the biggest thing, right? Is to me, I've always been a leadership guy. I've always loved leadership, and the easiest definition for me was my college football coach. Leadership is influence, and so it's been an easy transition for me. I'd say easy transition. It's been a nice transition for me into sales, because I think sales is the same thing as leadership. It's influence, right? Yeah. But most important of that is building relationships and being able to have the built up bank account with your customer to call them and say, hey man, I can't do it for this price. This is why I was, whatever it may, but have those honest conversations about what's going on, without feeling like it's just these transactional relationships are just, they don't last, right?
Yeah.
Transactional relationships.
This is not a transactional business.
No, it's not. Absolutely.
It's very much relationship driven, even in 2022.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. One of my best friends, we kind of did our first startup together, really never went where. We actually moved to Houston together, had a startup house. I got married halfway through that, but my name was on the lease, so I couldn't really get out of it. And we didn't really make any money at the time because I was just like going to school. And so then my wife moved in with us in the startup house. Like we had like the banner in the kitchen, and like that was like our hacking room. Anyway, it ended up not going anywhere, but he went on to pursue software engineering and stuff. And now, as of like 2 weeks ago or maybe a month ago, he now works at Combo Curve, as a developer. And so it's like he's now dove head first into oil and gas.
Yeah.
And we've known each other for, I don't know, I've known him longer than I know my wife, probably 12, 13 years. And I was never really able to talk to him about oil and gas stuff because there's so much nuance and there's so much context that you're kind of missing. Like I don't want to just go into this conversation without having to tell you a million other things, right? He calls me the other day and he was just like, man, it's like there's PUDs and PDP and PV and P90 and P10 and, they're building some pretty cutting edge technology, being able to build all these type curves and economics for these wells. And it was so cool because he was like, yeah, so I went back and listened to y'all's interview with Armand. I was able to get schooled up really quickly. He was like, I'm just scouring the website and YouTube and podcasts and just trying to like learn as much as I possibly can about the industry. And that doesn't just apply to the people who are absolutely like brand new to the industry. Obviously you want to like soak all this in, but it's also like you think about an engineer who's graduating who just has no experience yet, right? And wants to learn not just about the role that he's going into, maybe he's a reservoir engineer, but he wants to learn about like the stuff that you guys are doing. Like you have a huge opportunity to like, yes, we're talking about raising energy IQ, collectively, but raising energy IQ as an industry internally.
Absolutely.
Right. Matt, you imagine you have more people that come to the table with better ideas because you're more well-versed and understand the comprehensive overall picture of what's happening here.
Yep.
That is how we innovate.
It's huge. And then when you have these conversations with the folks that are actually using the end product and you say, this is how it works. Oh, well, that's why there's a max GPMs that we can flow on this thing. That's why there's a max weight or whatever. And they start to see the internal, like you said, the IQ of everyone goes up, and then again, our efficiencies continue to increase. I mean, there's so many things that we can continue to do. Like I said, we're drilling ourselves out of a job right now, but there's still more improvement to be made, and a lot of it is just education, is just understanding how it all works together. It's like, relate a lot back to football, was the offensive lineman, the right guard knows what the right guard's doing. The wide receiver knows what the quarterback's got to know what everybody's doing. And if we get to a point where we're all quarterbacks of what we're doing and the application of what we're using, it would be a game changer.
No, absolutely. We've always used the kind of the example of, you've got the reservoir engineers that are generating the type curves, and then you go all the way to the end, you go into production, and you're like, well, why didn't these meet up? Obviously, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in between there. However, you've seen that a lot of the different departments have been incentivized differently, and there isn't like any sort of cohesion to where everybody is like benefited off of like, especially if you did like profit sharing, like where everybody had some sort of like non-op working interest in the well, and everybody's like on the same page about this needs to produce very well. Yeah. It's amazing the kind of teamwork you can have across drilling, completions, and then going into production. And then now the engineer's happy. Right?
Well, and that's such a big thing, right? It's like you tell anybody in this industry, how do you succeed? The first thing is, that's not my job, is not anything that should never come out of your mouth. I'll figure it out, right? And we'll work together to figure it out. And if you can get, like you said, from the beginning to the end, all working together and understanding that what I do here today affects what could be 6 years from now, depending on how things go. It's very difficult to do, but it makes all the difference in the world.
I'm curious. I'm curious about a lot of things, but here's one of the things I'm curious is what is y'all's take, or what's maybe the take of a lot of your colleagues, maybe at other companies? Work from home in the oil field. How does that work?
So it's interesting.
Are you guys doing it or no?
We have it's
hybrid?
common, hybrid, So obviously, it's very difficult to run a lathe or inject a stator from home. So there are certain, I always thought of it as interesting. At my time at Schlumberger, we had an essential and non-essential employees, and I was always a non-essential employee because I was an office guy, and I was like, well, why am I non-essential? It makes a lot of sense to me now, right? But yeah, so I mean, obviously, we talk about it all the time. Tippy and I have conversations on a daily basis that we are competing with companies and for people, but pay is only a part of it now. Used to be, I'm leaving for 25 cents an hour more. We're going,
Dude,
now
it's such a competitive
it's
market.
Lifestyle, right? People, right, wrong, or indifferent, the COVID-19 thing that happened taught people that lifestyle is important. And, if you can have a better lifestyle, whether that means working from home or, leaving a little early or, 4 hours at the office, 4 hours at the house or whatever those times are. So yes, the answer is we've kind of got a hybrid thing. And with my sales team, if you're in the office, we're doing it wrong, right? We want to be out in front of our customers.
Absolutely.
We want to be involved. We want to do that.
Especially when you're in the truck, you're going to see customers and stuff. I don't even consider that work from home. That's just field sales.
Yeah, that's right. You're in your truck. So what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build in the company, some of the things that we're going to do, different as we continue to push is we're giving our team the ability to. There are things right now that they've got to go to the office for to be able to access, to be able to see. we're getting to the point where it's like, I do everything on that. That's my brain. I could lose my laptop tomorrow and be fine, but if I lost that thing, I'm in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to put it in our employees' hands so that we can have, different outlets, or you don't have to be sitting in front of a computer screen to do your job. And there, like I said, that'll help from an educational standpoint. Going back to that piece of it is like, can our inside sales team, who's doing a whole bunch of quotes and talking to all these vendors, can they go see those vendors? Could they go understand what, when we ask for a quote for this size, this OD, this, this KSI strength, whatever it may be, how do they figure out if they have it? Go meet with them. Because if I can handle a couple things during that 2-hour, field trip, so to speak, and still do my job, let's do it.
Yeah. I guess my biggest question is, and this is something I always ask myself, Colin's the same way, is does it make the team soft? Or maybe, as a society, are we getting soft? I think the answer is yes. But does it make the team soft? Right? And I think that, I'll just say up front, I think software companies, for the most part, probably work pretty well being remote. There's a lot of tools, collaboration tools and stuff that have been built and tested over the last 10 years. It's pretty standard.
Yep.
There's certain functions and stuff where you probably need to get people together on a whiteboard. However, just the nature of software developers, they're pretty good on their own. They're kind of work in a silo, right? It's not really needed to have tons and tons of FaceTime. For what we do, it's absolutely essential. We spend most of our days around whiteboards.
Yeah.
Right. And so we were hybrid, let's just call it 6 months ago. And we felt like we had some communication breakdowns and things weren't really getting done. We weren't really hitting we operate on OKRs, so objectives and key results that kind of guide the company to a North Star for the year. And then everybody got in the office. We said, hey, we're going to pause. Everybody come to the office, and guess what? All communication issues went away. Crushed all the OKRs, all problems solved.
So I think it's also before Elon did, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then Elon came out and was just like, "Yeah, work from home is bullshit." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can agree with that." But right. it's an interesting topic. It's something that I'm continuing to try to explore with different organizations. And is there anything that I can learn from what you guys are doing at Viking and that we can apply with Wildcatters or with anybody who's listening that they can apply within their companies?
Yeah, I think going back to. It gives you a competitive edge on the hiring standpoint if you can say, "Hey, we're rigid, but we're flexible."
Yeah,
if that makes any sense at all. Look, 100% agree that face to face, there was an option for doing this. Over. I want to come down here and do this face to face. It can't be beat, but at the same time, we also know everybody's got lives. Everybody's got this, that, and the other things to take care of. And, a happy employee is a more productive employee.
Yeah.
And if it takes 1 day a week for employee A to work from home, but the other 4 in there, in the trenches doing their things.
Yeah. I think it comes down to just hiring the right people who are going to continue to hustle and that don't necessarily have to be, if you're in one of those companies where you think work from home or hybrid works, where you're not having to be necessarily handheld. And I think what's ruined me is just I've seen a couple of different things online where there was one software developer. He's like, yeah, I'm currently working at 6 different companies full-time, work from home. I'm shipping code to all of these. My collective compensation is $1.2 million. I've got stock options worth like $5 million or something. And he was just like, I work a lot, but it's pretty cush because I ship code here, and then I ship code here, then I ship code here, then I ship code there. And then there's also the other people who are like, yeah, I'm just sitting there working on a beach, and I think for certain things, yeah, maybe that works. But I think at the same time, it's you're masking possibly laziness or not wanting to actually work. There is that is happening. We know that
there's no doubt about it. Right. Yeah, I think you got to have again, it seems where I go rigid and flexible. If we're going to be flexible to let people do things, we've got to be rigid on. If you're asked a question, if you're needed for this, if blah blah blah, these things need to happen, and if they're not happening, then there's a portion of me. I'm kind of torn like you. There's a portion of me that says we're paying these people really good money, and we're paying them to then babysit them. That doesn't make any sense. So again, I think it's going back to the very beginning of our conversation of what we've done very very well is create that culture.
Yeah.
A lot of our people, I hope I'm saying this, and I feel it when I go in. People just enjoy being there. and the camaraderie that they have and being around the folks that they're around. So
I like to think that we have the same thing. When everybody comes in, we've tried to create a really, really fun environment.
We don't have any comfortable couches and beanbags like you guys got. So I mean,
you gotta get some of those. You gotta get some of those out. We want to make it and there's so much that goes into like the team kind of like votes and comes up with ideas of like, hey, what should we do with the office and like what other perks and attracting talent has been hard. Yep. We're kind of going through this growth phase now and kind of looking to bring on some people. Brought some more on recently that are absolute killers, and it's like we want more of that. However, if you're looking to like compete in kind of like the broader job market, like dude, it's hard. Like there's this major hump of we just came out of the worst downturn in oil and gas ever. Right. And a lot of people are like, I don't even know if I want to go into it anymore. Right. So there's like this huge perception thing. There's also a lot of people who are from the industry that have like gone through 3 downturns in their career. And they're like, I'm done. Like it's wiped me out. Obviously that's terrible. But also now, I mean, you're competing against companies like especially the big tech companies, Facebook, Amazon. Yeah. Dude, I mean, you're looking at some of these companies, especially for like tech talent, $400,000 or $500,000 base salaries, and then another probably $500,000 bonus a year. Yeah. And it's work from home, and you're getting all these crazy perks. Like, how are we as an industry, especially, the companies that are in here, and it's a lot of, tech companies, especially like in software, like how do you attract the right kind of talent to come in? Like, I mean, what are we having to like give up to sell people? Also, where are all the people? Why does like, I don't understand this. Why is it when I go to like the other day I went to Smoothie King, I was like, I'm gonna get a protein shake, and they had a thing on the what do you call it, little intercom? Yeah. They were like, we're closed. We don't have enough people. We cannot hire anybody. We closed for the day.
Wow.
And I'm seeing that everywhere, especially in like the service industry.
The service industry, and that's how plug for the service industry.
Like,
if you're going
stimulus checks aren't carrying people. No. $1,400 don't last very long.
It doesn't last very long.
Where did everybody go?
I don't know.
And nobody wants to work.
Nobody wants to work. And on top of competing with the Googles and all these other these unbelievable salaries, none of those industries have been vilified like we have.
Especially this whole ExxonMobil has made more money than God, yet their net margin for last year was like less than 8%. And you look at Apple, Google, all 30+ percent.
Yes.
It's completely asinine. It's a terrible argument.
The Pfizers of the world. I mean,
so that's a whole other podcast.
Rabbit hole we shouldn't go down. But I mean, so we've got all these things, and that to me, if anybody ever questions whether social media or media in general is worth putting money into as a company, look at our society, right? They get told this on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and it's gospel.
Why are the oil and gas companies price gouging?
Yeah, exactly. But don't look into it any further because it's not that easy. Yeah. So. Man. Yeah, like you said, that could be a whole nother podcast. Maybe we shouldn't do it on podcast.
Well, dude, this has been fun. Obviously, we just talked about everything under the sun. Yeah. Loved it. Great conversation. I really want to come by Viking, check it out, create some content, and showcase exactly what you guys are doing. Just educate people.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to do a whole lot more of it. And so I love that you guys are leading the way with social media. Yep. This has been fun, dude.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Doors are open, man. We'd love to have you guys out. Check us out on Viking PT, VikingPowerTechnologies.com, and then follow us on,
You're on LinkedIn, right?
LinkedIn, yes, sir.
Right. So it's just Nick Williams on there?
Nick Williams on LinkedIn. And
cool.
Yeah, man, really appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk to you. Really enjoyed it.
Yep, absolutely, man. All right, guys, take 2 seconds, leave a rating review, share it with your entire company. Just do like, hey, just select all on email, put it in there, put it on Slack if you guys have Slack, Microsoft Teams. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.